right, and welcome back to the Old Republic podcast. Today we're going to be bringing on a guest that has been pretty influential in Cassia's kind of podcast listening and learning. It's a podcast that she introduced me to, and definitely fall right in line with kind of the stories that we like to tell and the way we like to think about the way that, you know, we're consuming stories and things. So we're very excited to have on the podcast with us today, Dan and Jeff from the Hero's Journey podcast. Jeff, Dan, how are you guys doing today?
Hey,
outstanding.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good. I actually got sleep last night. Got some caffeine, ready to rock.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Yeah, we're recording in the morning for you guys. It's a little after noon here, but yeah, thank you so much for hopping on with us. Cassia first brought up your guys' podcast to me way back, like over a year ago, and she's been, you know, really, you know, kind of pushed me to listen to you guys, to, you know, start kind of getting into how you guys are doing your podcast and the way you guys are talking about movies and stories, and that's been really fascinating, really great to get into. And I know Cassie's wanted to have you guys on the show for a long time, so we're glad we're finally able to work out a time to have you guys on, and we're going to be presenting it on a very special May the 4th episode, because we're a Star Wars centric podcast and we are required by law to put out a podcast on May the 4th. I think we have to. So we're very excited to have you guys on. Cassia, how did you first come across the Hero's Journey podcast?
Well, when I was in school, I was like, you know what would be cool is a Hero's Journey podcast. Like, that hasn't been done. And then I saw, like, oh, wait, it has been done, and it's been done very well. So that's how I found it. And, I mean, on our podcast, we talk about the Monomyth, Hero's Journey, Heroine's Journey. But I love what you guys do, kind of like analyzing it through the lens of Campbell and Vogler, and kind of pairing it with, like, cocktails and stuff. So yeah, it's a fun podcast, and you might hear that like I sound like maybe a little intimidated and scared, but like I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, because I know our podcast is a tough sell and we go like so in depth sometimes, so thank you for being a guest on our hyper specific Star Wars podcast.
Oh yeah, we are big Star Wars fans ourselves, so this is fun.
Yeah,
Star Wars was our very first episode, so
yeah,
we tag teamed Star Wars and Harry Potter. So we've been loving this particular story for our entire lives. So
yeah,
and Dan introduced me to Knights of the Old Republic years ago. And he and I had a very similar experience where his file got corrupted the first time he played it way back when, and he gave up. And then my approach to video games is it hasn't really changed since Super Mario Brothers. I just my video game group, our No Games for Old Men channel, they call me Panic, because when things get tense, I just start mashing buttons and
screaming, lots of screaming,
and lots of expletives. And so playing this game again, I quit because I couldn't get past one specific part. I think I was on Manon, and I just couldn't get past this one battle. And Dan's been doing a series called Mutant Year Zero on our No Games for Old Men YouTube channel. And I've been watching it and going, oh, I'm supposed to go through all the different kinds of grenades and see which enemies they're more effective against. And it really helped me enjoy Knights of the Old Republic and get through it and have a good time. So we've been playing this game for over a month, really looking forward to this podcast. And, you know, we approach every podcast with a healthy amount of terror and anxiety. So we're probably all on the same page.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So, just in case anyone needs a refresher on maybe some of the names we're going to be using in this podcast, Joseph Campbell, he was kind of the first person to really kind of write down, I guess, like kind of write about the monomyth, I guess. He wrote The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and that's kind of a book that kind of was the first of its kind, and it kind of outlines like the hero's journey in like so much depth. Later hero's journeys would kind of strip it down. He analyzed like stories from all over the world, and I think it's a great book that usually is very impactful for people who read it. And Christopher Vogler. We just talked with him in episode 120, I believe. The Writer's Journey, Mythic Structure for Writers, and that's on its 4th edition right now. He kind of made it a little bit more accessible, I think, and kind of linked it to Hollywood in the movies. Because I think the first time I read The Hero with 1,000 Faces, it took me about 2 years. Like, I was reading it as a senior in high school, and I was like, whoa, this is like, I don't understand like so much of it, but
I don't think I could have gotten through it if I were a senior in high school when I read it. So I'm impressed that you tackled Campbell at that age.
Yeah, when I heard you say that on the podcast, I was like, holy cow, she read it as a senior in high school. So that's a testament to your literary commitment and understanding.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah, tenacious for sure. Yeah, I definitely couldn't have made it through in high school either. I can barely make it through now, but I can't make it through Christopher Vogler's book because that one makes a lot more sense. It's a little bit more digestible and a little bit more practical application.
Dan and I both read Vogler first, which I think definitely helped understand Campbell better. Speaking for me, I definitely was able to digest it better, having gotten the simpler overview that was more in touch with the kinds of stories that I'd read.
Yeah.
It was like reading the Cliff's Notes before you actually read the novel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Although that's not fair to Vogler. He did an amazing job of distilling Campbell's idea into something for modern audiences.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we as almost lifelong students of Vogler take for granted is that Campbell was really attached to Jung and Freud and psychology and then myth and folklore. He was applying it to the Bhagavad Gita. He wasn't applying it to, Major League.
Yeah.
So he really, aside from distilling it and making it more digestible, he really applied it to modern storytelling in a way I don't think anybody had. And so it was a stretch for me when I read Campbell to go, okay, apotheosis, where am I going to find that? And then once Vogler had unpacked what that meant in modern storytelling, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. It all starts to click.
Yeah.
I listened to your Vogler interview a few days ago, and I was impressed when he said he wrote his 7-page memo for Disney, and then Hollywood adopted the idea almost universally. So like he really had a huge impact on the way stories are told now.
Yeah.
And it's stunning to read or to watch films and read books that were published prior to Vogler dropping that, essentially the pop culture version of Campbell, and to see how it still pervades storytelling, prior to the, what was it, late 80s when he distributed that memo.
Yeah.
So it's astounding to see how pervasive it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in our DNA, like telling stories. Like you might not people might not have read like all of these books, but it is. I think it's something that definitely kind of helps you. It can help you tell and understand stories at a deeper level, but like it's not a requirement, like that people necessarily have to. So, and then kind of after Vogler, there was The Heroine's Journey by Maureen Murdoch, and it's kind of like a memoir, kind of like saying like how women like who kind of went into the workforce kind of felt like they weren't feeling fulfilled by the traditional like kind of hero's journey, like, and kind of like how there's probably room like to analyze and like respecting the differences between men and women, even though we have a lot of similarities and there's lots of gender identities and sexualities out there, kind of like finding room for the female stories. And then I also read Gail Carriger's The Heroine's Journey, and I think that was kind of a little bit more on par with maybe like Vogler's. Like it kind of took the ideas of The Heroine's Journey and went in depth with them, and I kind of liked how she said, like, Harry Potter kind of goes more on a typical heroine's journey where it's, like, kind of finding belonging and family. And, like, say if you watch Wonder Woman, Diana kind of goes more on a traditional hero's journey, you know. Have you read either of those books?
I read The Heroine's Journey in late 2017 in preparation for our episode on The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
I wanted to read it and get that perspective. So yes, I have not read Maria Tatar's book yet.
Yeah. This book, like, really, it's like one of the like most beautiful books I've like purchased, like as a nice gold cover. And just kind of like, it reminds me of like when I opened the Hero with 1,000 Faces, like it has the cool like pictures and everything. And
yeah.
It kind of got me thinking, like, because I don't know, like as a female, like sometimes like I kind of wonder if like I internalized some misogyny and stuff, and like just kind of took like female stories for granted and said, oh, it's just like old wives' tales or folklore. And it really got me to thinking kind of like, I guess kind of like what I like about like the hero's journey is like with Campbell, you know, like I think he wouldn't say he's the final word on mythology. I would say he's a gateway, and then like we're all kind of meant to kind of keep talking about it, and I'm just happy that there will probably always be books, always be podcasts, always be people discussing these stories and everything, and like kind of making it more inclusive and I guess more holistic for like I guess like people all over the world across like I guess like gender identities, sexualities, races, and yeah, because storytelling is just in our DNA, I guess.
I mean, Campbell published The Hero with 1,000 Faces in 1949.
Yeah,
so
lots of changed.
His perspective reflects the gender dynamics of the time in a very dated way.
Yeah.
That's a valid criticism.
Which is pointed out in the first few chapters of The Heroine with 1,001 Faces, is kind of an indictment of Campbell and Vogler in a way. In my writing, I've had, in my published works, I've had a female protagonist and a gender fluid protagonist. So I feel very unfettered by Campbell's old patriarchy ideas. I think that the hero's journey is genderless, and we've done many female character centric episodes, and characters are characters, and like you said, Harry Potty. I got the first gaff out of the way, everybody. I had a little Peeves moment. Like you said, Harry Potter follows a more traditionally quote unquote feminine kind of a story, and Wonder Woman follows a more quote unquote masculine kind of story. And so those are kind of great examples of how the hero's journey has room for all different kinds of perspectives. And it really is a revealing and fun lens to look at all kinds of modern stories through.
Yeah. So hopefully that kind of gives our listeners like a little bit of a background of like some different people who have kind of touched on the Monomyth, hero's journey, heroine's journey. And if there's any books or other media you think we've missed, just leave us a comment and we will address it in the future. So Brian, we kind of talked about those terms and names. Like, I guess, like, how would you kind of tell people about Knights of the Old Republic? Because I know our podcast listeners have no idea what this is.
That's right. So it's
right.
So if you're listening
Allow us
to us,
introduce the Knights of the Old Republic in case 121 episodes in you're unfamiliar.
That's
right. So yeah. Joseph Campbell did all that work back in the 50s, so we could get to Knights of the Old Republic in 2003. People out there listening to this are probably at least a little bit familiar with the story, but it's a Star Wars story. It's set way in the past from New Hope, that Skywalker saga that we have. It was a video game published by BioWare. It came out in 2003 on the Xbox and the PC. But the story kind of fundamentally is this hero journey that you are partaking in as the player in this role-playing game. You're the central character. You're the unnamed protagonist throughout most of the story as you kind of learn about who you are, and you're going from planet to planet, meeting allies, making friends, fighting in battles, and kind of an ultimate treasure hunt, basically, to get to the end of the game and confront the ultimate evil in the galaxy, which is embodied in this Starforge, this Death Star type of machine that can just, pump out weaponry for war, basically. So it's a Star Wars tale. It's a hero's journey. Yeah, it's more or less a treasure hunt. So you meet your character. You wake up very very abruptly, and you are set off on your quest down to the surface of Terrace to start meeting your companions, and then it's about going from planet to planet to find pieces of the star map to eventually lead you to your final goal. So that's kind of the quick and dirty summary of KOTOR, I guess, for people that aren't familiar with it, without getting too bogged down into the details, because, we're going to get into some more of those details as we go through the specific kind of steps through the hero's journey here.
Yeah, that's a very succinct and great summary, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So
we like quick and dirty on the Hero's Journey podcast. So
yeah,
that's right.
Well done,
notes.
sir.
Yeah. So, how do we best dive into Knights of the Old Republic? It kind of, as Brian says, begins with the title crawl, kind of establishing that it takes place 4,000 years ago, and you kind of awaken on the Endar Spire under attack. Yeah,
we've got this, the first stage of the hero's journey, and Dan and I kind of follow Vogler's model just because it's easier to look at modern films. So
yeah.
The ordinary world is where we meet our main character in their status quo life. And in a Star Wars movie, the first thing you have to do is establish the world, right? Because it's a big world. And this video game starts like most Star Wars stories with an opening crawl describing the political situation. So it's 4,000 years before the rise of the Empire. And we meet the name of our villain, Darth Malak, who's the last surviving apprentice of Dark Lord Revan.
Boo
and,
hiss, boo hiss.
and the victim of some kind of heinous mandibular injury.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And
that was a frightening reveal.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, man. Go to the dentist, kids. And so he's unleashed this seemingly invincible Sith armada on the galaxy. And the Jedi Order's ranks have been thinned because many of the knights have been killed, or they've joined the dark side. And the Jedi Council, has hidden itself away on Dantooine.
Yeah.
This was all pre-Order 66 too. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
Yeah,
the poor
Oh,
Jedi
yeah.
just
The Star
getting
Wars
worked.
galaxy, just so much war.
Yeah.
Not enough stars,
Well,
Not-
peace is boring in storytelling for the
Yeah.
most part. So we like it is called Star Wars.
Yeah.
So we open our story as you mentioned on the Endar Spire, and we're on a Republic vessel under the command of a Jedi named Bastila. And as is completely unacceptable in any writing class, we suddenly wake up at the beginning of the story. It's like such a big no-no. But in this case, it pays off much later in the story, right? So we're awakened and told by. Oh my God! I love in my writing in my notes that I'm going to read things as autocorrect. a soldier named Track Ugly.
yeah, okay, yeah.
What? Trask. You remember his Trask? And he tells us the ship is going down and helps us abandon the ship in an escape pod. And then he splits off to confront Malak's apprentice, Darth Bandon, who naturally will make a reappearance. And then our hero awakens a second time in defiance of modern storytelling rules, right? In this strange apartment. And another fellow Republic soldier, Carthonasi, tells us that our escape pods and the Endar Spire have crash-landed on Terrace, which is this outer rim planet under the control of the Sith. So when the story begins, that's the world that our hero faces.
With Star Wars, like you're your ordinary world is probably just a galaxy at war. And I guess what I like about the Knights of the Old Republic era is like it's not just like two Sith in the background, but it's like an army of Sith, army of Jedi, and like a lot of them were classmates together, and like you can fight one-on-one or fight like army on army, and I just think it like kind of keeps things fresh, you know, rather than just like being in the Skywalker timeline. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and you know, since the story is told through the medium of a video game, we don't really get to spend a lot of time in the ordinary world, right? We kind of get that crawl to set it up, and then literally you're you're being awoken with that cargo adventure kind of straight away. So I guess
it's funny.
They didn't want to have you, you know, mopping the floors or whatever Revan was doing, I guess, on board the Endar Spire prior to going to sleep that night. But
Well, your character doesn't even know how to open a footlocker. So when the story starts, so maybe you should be mopping the floors.
Yeah.
Well, Dan and I discussed, you know, the arc of a video game is long. You know, this is a 40-something hour game.
Yeah.
Longer if you play it the way I did, where you walk back and forth a lot and fail at the puzzles a lot. But you know, as necessary, there are many micro objectives, you know, quests within the quests, to keep the game interesting. So
because
as we went through because video games, exactly. So it was fun to go through this and go, oh my gosh, we can't talk about everything. It isn't going to be a 40-hour podcast. So to kind of distill things down to the key plot turning events was, for me, a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenge for us, and we did a lot of episodes, especially about Terrace. I think we had about like 9 episodes on Terrace, and then like once we got to like some of the other planets, we do 1 or 2 like episodes, and maybe just like 1, and we're like, okay, thank God we're done.
That got the point across.
Here's an example of how lame I am at video games. When I first played it, I completely was unaware of, ignored, or paid no attention to the return to origin, whatever it's called, return to the Ebon Hawk, return to the apartment. Yeah. And so I spent hours walking in Terrace back and forth again. It was just horrible. And then when I play it the second time, I'm like, you're kidding me.
I could have done that the whole time.
I can transit back, and I can I can be stealthy. That solved so many problems. But that's an example of my button mashing ignorance.
Yeah. So yeah, Terrace can be interesting, and I think like with the game you spend like about like, some people never level up past level 2, so then they can get as many like Jedi levels as they can. In my perspective, like that's impossible to do. It feels like Terrace is about 1/3 of the game, so I think like that's kind of like maybe the ordinary world of the game, like in my perspective, and you kind of see like the dynamics on the world, kind of like it's a Sith occupied world, and you kind of meet most of the characters, I think on Terrace.
We meet 6 of the companions on Terrace, yeah.
I guess like the main objective on Terrace is to find the commander, Bastila, Jedi who has battle meditation, who is kind of like the last great hope of the Republic against Darth Malak and the Sith forces. Because I guess battle meditation, it's kind of like just kind of being able to meditate and like give morale to their side and like take away morale from the other side. Like, I don't know, it'd be cool. Like, I know it's a video game, but like, I'm like, how would they visualize that? You know, like in a...
It's like Mass Bless. It gives them a +2 to like Constitution and wisdom and all that.
Yeah. I think that's what Star Wars movies need, is like a dice roller, you know, and like...
Well, it's funny. This game was based on what, D&D 3.5?
Yeah.
So mechanics were familiar to... I was a D&D player, a lifelong D&D player. So that helped me. In this,
What do you mean was? We still are, friend.
That's true. But we've left 3.5 behind.
Oh, sure.
D&D has progressed. So that's kind of the main objective. And Terrace, it's an interesting world because it's kind of like a corrupt gilded world, but when you first see when you kind of like first see it, you're like, oh, there's beautiful music playing, there's sunlight. It kind of looks like Coruscant, I guess. Terrace is kind of all about contrast because the first level is very good, but then you kind of notice like, oh, they're kind of like each level, there's like 3 levels on Terrace. They kind of separate the aliens from the upper city into the lower city, and then there's like kind of just like prisoners, you know, like in the undercity, and it just like progressively gets darker, kind of more gritty as you go down. And I forget Rackles exist, but like, yeah, like in the undercity, like they're kind of like zombie monkey cyclops things, and I was like, oh yeah. So what do you guys see the ordinary world as in this game?
Yeah, it is, for us, it's everything on the Endar Spire. I can see how a lot of what happens on Terrace could be part of World of Common Day, because you're still learning the politics and the divisions of the city. But I think once we get to that abandoned apartment on Terrace and Karth tells you we have to find Bastila, like you said, that's your main objective on Terrace. So that's, for us, or for me, speaking for myself, that's the call to adventure for your hero.
Yeah.
And then everything after that, then you're on the downward ramp into adventure.
It's interesting because when you wake up on Terrace, you actually sort of see Bastila battling some Dark Jedi, and it's kind of like that's a weird specific dream.
Yeah, why am I having this particular vision?
Yeah, and so in Knights of the Old Republic, you kind of traverse each level, kind of have to blend in. Sometimes you disguise yourself as a Sith trooper, you know, and
get some of that shapeshifter action from our Campbellian archetypes.
Yeah, and you kind of meet some allies in the scoundrel Mission Veo, who has a friend who is a Wookiee, you know, Big Z, and you meet Candace Ordo, who kind of works for Davik King, who is the crime boss on Terrace, and like he kind of, I don't know, I think he kind of goes through some different shape-shifting too, because he's kind of an enemy and then kind of joins up with you. You eventually like kind of get into the middle of a gang war swoop fight, and of course, because it's a video game, even though like Karth Onasi is a famous pilot, it's like, I think you need to race this swoop bike for us. And it's like, okay. And once you win that, the prize is Bastila. And one thing I don't like is that they kind of just like have her in a bird cage in a skimpy outfit. And like, if they ever adapt that, like, I want that gone. Like, no skimpy outfit, you know, like.
Yeah, I had that experience, just to skip ahead, on Tatooine. I chose a female hero, and once the Sand People, steal the uniforms that you were wearing, because one of the choices is you can dress up as Tusken Raiders and infiltrate their camp. They kicked us out, and both my character and Bastila are in like bikinis, and it was like beach day on Tatooine. That's got to go.
Yeah,
well, you've kind of
Jedi
dived
corset.
Right,
Apparently.
The Jedi bikini. Oh boy, that Campbell would have been happy of that, I guess. I shouldn't say that. Poor Campbell. Yeah. So that you've kind of dived into my refusal of the call. So refusal is when the hero is confronted with the unknown, and they refuse to engage in the adventure. But sometimes the refusal is expressed from without, from outside the hero.
Yeah.
And so the refusal here comes from the Undercity gangs and the Sith. Everyone's standing in the way of our hero and Karth finding and freeing Bastila. And as you mentioned, we meet lots of allies and enemies, and we get a lot of Act 2 stuff, because this is a video game, and you got to get us in there. And so that time on Terrace, I think Dan and I both agree, is definitely Act 1. And a lot of stuff occurs. But that refusal is really our enemies standing in the way of that first objective of finding Bastila.
Eventually find Bastila. If it were a movie, like, I would just be like, okay, get Bastila and leave, you know, but then, like, there's a few more levels, but I guess, like, you kind of find Bastila and you're able to all get off of Terrace, and then Darth Malak is trying to make sure no one survives leaving Terrace, because he's like, if I can't find Bastila and turn her to the dark side, I'm just going to wipe this pathetic planet from the face of the galaxy. And it's like, it's kind of like he is someone with a Death Star, like, before the Common Era, you know, like, so he's trying to destroy a planet to the best of his ability. All these ships open fire onto Terrace. The Ebon Hawk is the name of the ship, and what I kind of like about the Ebon Hawk is it's kind of meant to evoke the Millennium Falcon. Millennium kind of means, like, silvery. Ebon kind of, like, is derived from ebony, and then Hawk is kind of smaller than a falcon, so it's kind of meant to be like, it's kind of like the Millennium Falcon. It's kind of shaped basically like the Millennium Falcon, but the Millennium Falcon is better.
The Ebon Hawk, also, you could interpret that as blackbirds. And the mythology of a blackbird is, black is the color of mystery, magic, and death, and dark associations with death, messengers that haunt the soul. So the Ebon Hawk is, in many ways, a deliverer of death to to Darth Malak and his allies.
That's deep.
Wow.
Like John Cocteau, like, we have not found those depths, you know, in this podcast yet, but
So after rescuing Bastila, that initiates, I felt, the meeting with the mentor, because Bastila, she herself claims the role of mentor for your player character. So that was the clearest element for me, at least on Terrace. This is a Star Wars movie. Star Wars as a story universe is full of mentors start to finish. So of course there are you meet a whole bunch of new mentors on Dantooine, but the initial mentor moment is with Bastila, because that's where the story begins to unfold, the greater story of the game. The connection with Bastila, the visions, what it all means, and that was my thought. And of course, supernatural aid. I don't know, we're not quite there yet, but every time somebody gets their lightsaber, that's your super weapon that saves you for the rest of your career.
Yeah, every time you go to Ollivanders and get your wand, or an old wizard gives you your lightsaber, that's about as literal a transcription of supernatural aid directly from Campbell as any of these stories get. It's just so bang pop.
Yeah. And you see it in things like Tolkien too. Fellowship of the Ring, when the hobbits are given the gifts of Galadriel, that's those are supernatural aids. Not supernatural in that they are not of this world, but
magical, I guess.
Yeah,
exactly. And after we meet Bastila, that's the next stop for the crew, is to go to Dantooine, talk to the Jedi Council, and then we're off to find kyber crystals so we can get our lightsaber and get going on this journey. So we're getting that gift of their wisdom, and I guess getting the knowledge of this first star map, and kind of the tools we're going to need going on the rest of this journey.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that all is function of mentor.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
So once we rescue Bastila, and she informs us that we're force sensitive, and we start to get a bit of their relationship and the shared vision, we get to crossing of the threshold, which is the hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world. And the special world is this search for, on one level, the physical MacGuffin, star map, star forge, but on another level, it's really searching for identity, right? And so we go on this whole quest of dark side, light side, discovering the force sensitivity, the training, all of that leading up to the peak, the the ordeal of this film is identity. But in the literal sense, the crossing of the threshold, our hero and newly met companions defeat the bounty hunter Kalo Nord and steal the Ebon Hawk and escape Terrace. And Bastila says, hey, we're on our way to Dantooine to meet the Jedi Council, who will give us our next instructions. So that launches us off of Terrace and really into the second act of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And on Dantooine, you kind of get the sense that like the Jedi are kind of more like prequel era Jedi, where they're kind of more dogmatic and probably even more culty. And like
culty.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And
they're conniving and
they're keeping things from you. And it's like after Terrace, like you're kind of like, oh, this is a nice naturey world, but you kind of like there's a little bit of an unease kind of underneath everything, and you're like, I think there's just things they're not telling me, but you kind of are entrusted to go on a quest with Bastila, and it's kind of like an Indiana Jones quest. It's like there's 4 star maps to find on Tatooine, Kashyyyk, Manon, and Korriban, and on each of those worlds, I mean, like, the Jedi and Sith are there, and you can choose light side, dark side, and you kind of have to prove your way, solve puzzles and everything to find those star maps, so you can find where the Starforge is.
I went full light side. What was your path? Did anybody go dark side?
No.
No, I always intend to, but then I always feel bad making dark side decisions, so I can't do it.
I went the same way. I went light side, and part of it is, I tried to do a little research and read about, what other players did, and it seemed like everybody who chose the dark side choosers were just. They represented themselves very poorly online. I was like, oh, come on. I wonder if maybe what we should do when the remake comes out is we should do a new episode and do Dark Side and play that out. Oh,
I don't know. Like, can I go Dark Side in HD? Like.
Yeah, the anti-hero, the villain has their own. If you look at things from the perspective of the villain, we see Anakin Skywalker's story unfold in the Star Wars universe, and it's a tragedy. So the villain, if the villain is vanquished in the end of the movie, it's the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
So that might be fun to play out. Although I have a feeling if you're the hero of the video game, you win at the end, and then it's the tragedy of Revan, the redemption and tragedy of Revan.
Yeah.
Redemption
Spoiler.
failed, for sure. But and then we're off to these other locations, and it kind of just, it being a video game, it just kind of repeats the cycle from location to location, picking up more allies along the way, gather more pieces of this puzzle that you're putting together to, ultimately send you off into kind of the final destination, kind of the Act 3 part where we're really continuing on the rest of our hero's journey.
Yeah, the travel or the activities on each of the 4 planets really make up the meat of Act 2. It's the Road of Trials, which is the first segment of Act 2, where your main hero is collecting this group of allies, and you're seeing your enemy in a brighter light, and you know what you're up against. You are undergoing these tests to not only, in Vogler, he talks about undergoing tests to prove the hero's worthiness. That's literally what you do when you're undergoing your Jedi training. Are you worthy of becoming a Padawan? And of course you get that great Kyber crystal, and you get to build. I went Sentinel with the yellow lightsaber. Anybody else?
Yellow's
Me
cool.
too.
Yep,
Me too.
Sentinel. Yep.
All of us?
I was like, yellow lightsaber. I want a yellow lightsaber, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, you could do a hero's journey on every planet. You could break down the activities, because there is, on every planet, there is this major moral choice that you can make. on Tatooine, there's the Tusken Raiders. Do you handle them peacefully and try to negotiate with them, trade with them, or do you just wipe them out? And Manon, how do you handle the Kolto production, the illegal Kolto production facility? Do you destroy it, or do you poison the giant shark?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So you could, but I think that would turn this into a 6-hour episode, and you don't want that. So
we're not going to do that, don't worry.
Yeah, no. That is the meat of the trials, though. You would really shrink those down into that segment.
And what I like is, like, I mean, the hero's journey is always like a journey of self-discovery, but in this game, it's actually kind of literally kind of self-discovery, remembering who you are. And
and you make those light side, dark side choices, which you are building your character's morality, but it is a discovery.
Yeah, you're finding your alignment in the D&D sense, right? Only alignment in the Star Wars universe is a binary spectrum. You've got dark and light. There's no chaos or neutrality. It's a dark or light. Pick one.
I sometimes I kind of wish Star Wars had a little bit more of a gray option, but it doesn't really seem to. It's kind of just a light dark binary, and I'm like, maybe that's kind of the problem of the Star Wars universe, is like there's no kind of middle ground,
That's why they're always at war.
Yeah,
it's the fantasy of wouldn't it be great if it was that simple?
Yeah.
Right? Yep. So the next stage is approach to the Inmost cave. The hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of their quest is hidden. I mean, literally the object of their quest. So I think, something happens on each planet that identifies that section of the journey, that finding of that piece of the star map that's going to lead us to the Star Forge. But whatever order you visit the planets, on the fourth planet, Darth Bandon, the apprentice of Darth Malak, confronts you. So first Malak sends a bounty hunter after you, and he fails. So now he's like, that's it. I'm sending my apprentice. And in my version, I defeated him in an epic lightsaber battle.
He gave me heartburn. I had such a hard time with Bandon for quite a while.
I reloaded and reloaded. Dan and I had an exchange about that, and he's like, pay attention to the grenades, pay attention to the... And of course, my instinct is somebody with a lightsaber, let's run directly at them and start swinging.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I realized, you can run away.
Just like real life.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they give you that whole, we're a couple turns of distance. So when the Dark Jedi are running toward you, I'm like, buff,
Yep.
buff,
Yep.
and then that's, that's video game mechanics 101. But again, panic over here. So this confrontation with Darth Bandon is, by the way, Dark Brandon is what spell check wants you to call it. Dark Brandon, the guy in your brother's class who picks on you. So, but this is the event that propels Malik to seek out Bastila and our hero personally. This is that I'll do it myself moment for Malik. So that's what I really saw as the approach to the Inmost cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I kind of saw the approach as the Leviathan, like, kind of just like, which is kind of, I guess, the ordeal. Like, it's kind of just Malik trying everything, like from bounty hunters to his apprentice, and then he's like, fine, I'll do it myself. On the Leviathan, like, I guess, like, the major ordeal of the game is kind of like the twist, which I think is, like, kind of on par with Luke discovering that Vader is his father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of learn, like, the reason why I was having all these hyper-specific visions leading me to the star maps, like, where Darth Revan went, is because I'm Darth Revan, and...
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the major ordeal. Like, it would be a major, like, if psychology existed in Star Wars, that would be fascinating, like, to see what happened, like what that psychic ordeal would be.
Yeah, Revan's therapy session would be epic.
Yeah.
Yeah. This game is 19 years old, so unfortunately I had that revelation spoiled for me years ago, so it didn't have the impact on me that it should have. But that is definitely the I am your father moment. I just had a thought that if you are playing Darkside and the revelation that you are the Dark Lord of the Sith, that's more ultimate boon, really, not... Can you imagine? You're playing a bad guy and suddenly, no, you are the bad guy. You're like, oh, awesome, now I can use that to my advantage.
That's right. It's like a bonus, yeah, for sure.
The villain's hero's
bonus.
journey is just a hero's journey from another perspective, I guess. So
Yeah.
I was not aware that the main character was Revan, and I played that section late at night. My kids were asleep. My wife's in the other room, and I'm like, oh! And my wife comes in like, what is going on? And I'm like, I'm the bad, good guy's the bad guy.
You are Revan.
Yeah,
the bad guy is me.
I'm so glad it wasn't spoiled for me because it was such a fun moment to play. Watch that cutscene, and so good.
yeah,
I'm glad you didn't have that spoiled too.
Yeah, me too. And I'm just vomiting words on our Discord, like, I got to the twist.
yeah, yeah.
And just to hear Dan enjoying my enjoyment of that was a pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, I was spoiled before I even played it. But even when I was playing it, I'm like, there's no way that's gonna be the thing, right? Like, my friend was probably misinformed, but then it is real, and I don't know. It's a pretty good twist, especially for, I don't know, 2003. Like, we kind of had the Matrix and the Bourne series kind of around
Bruce
then.
Willis was dead the whole time.
Yeah.
Is a big twist.
I agree. That's the ordeal. And you've kind of already identified the reward, as I see it, the ultimate boon, which is the hero, having faced their worst fear, seizes the object of their quest. Now, to jump forward a little bit, the physical reward, I think, is when Neo Revan seizes the final piece of the star map, which gives us the location of the Star Forge.
Yeah.
But I think the spiritual rewards are more profound in this game. Vogler talks about seeing through deception as a reward, where the hero gains the knowledge or a new view of things. And this is the hero realizing that they're Revan. That is seeing through the deception of the Jedi Council, something that's been really in effect the whole game. And that also counts as another piece that Vogler identified, he calls self-realization. And I'm just going to quote him because it's so on point. Heroes can sometimes experience a profound self-realization after tricking death here being escaping from Malak. They see who they are and how they fit into the scheme of things. They see the way they've been foolish or stubborn. The scales fall from their eyes, and the illusion of their lives is replaced with clarity and truth. I don't know how much more on point you get there.
That seems like Campbell's apotheosis moment.
Yeah.
For sure. Yes, apotheosis. Right. The part that I had trouble with when I was reading. I really had trouble pronouncing it. And then we've got epiphany too, which is other people in the story see the hero more clearly. And they may see in their changed behavior signs that they have been reborn. So this really is a rebirth. And then I would say, depending on either which way you go, dark or light side, it's either a rediscovery, I am the Dark Lord and I can pursue that, or, oh my God, I have to choose the good side. I can't continue to be this evil person. So that's kind of what I identified as the reward there.
Yeah. Tabula rasa, Latin for blank slate, because it's just interesting because, like, Revan is given a second chance, and he can go, or I guess he doesn't even have to be he. It's just, like, canonically, like, most people are like, he's a he, so I'm kind of just used to saying that. But, like, Revan can go either way, light or dark, and, like, usually, like, Star Wars video games, like, the canonical, like, choice is the light side, and, like, I can't go dark side because it just makes me too sad and
Yeah.
gives me too much anxiety. Like,
Same.
so I guess I kind of see it like Revan was given a second chance to become good, and like I think like kind of incorporate like all of his different kind of personas, like the Dark Lord of the Sith Revan, Neophyte Padawan, Republic soldier, all that, and like kind of make peace with it, you know. And I don't really see Revan like maybe jumping back to the deceptive Jedi Council, like, but like I would see Revan as aligned with good, you know, and like maybe kind of find like a sense of balance like outside of like the extremes of the Sith and Jedi.
Yeah.
That's a great insight. I especially like what you said about all the different identities that new Revan takes on as they pursue the journey up to this point. That's a great insight.
Yeah. That's what Darth Malak says, right? You are all things, Revan, and kind of with that knowledge, he realizes that he is, you know, he is all things. He is capable of being all things, and kind of that knowledge and insight is, I think kind of his ultimate reward in the story here.
That's great. End of Act 2 is usually when we
bevies.
The beverage, and Brian has created a great drink choice. So maybe I'd like to go mix a cocktail, and then Brian, maybe you can introduce to us this cocktail.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I'd be happy to.
All right, let's take the traditional hero's journey Act 2 break and go get ourselves a themed beverage. Now that we're back from our cocktail mixing moment, Brian, could you introduce this cocktail?
Yeah, what do we have?
For sure. That's for sure. So if you made the cocktail I sent, let's see. So
of course.
So imagine this. You're on the surface level of Terrace. You look up, you see Darth Malak's ship. It is raining down fire on the people of Terrace. You are in a hurry to get out of there. So what do? You see Davik Kang. You get rid of him. You steal a ship, and you get out of there. You get off the planet of Terrace. Now Canderous is with you. What does Canderous do? He goes over to the minibar. He breaks the lock. He pulls out the bottle of the finest Corellian brandy known in the galaxy. But before he can drink it all, you have to stop him because you want to make a Corellian brandy sidecar, which is what I am drinking right now. So the way you're going to make a sidecar, this is like a super classic cocktail. So this would be like the Old Republic cocktail, I think. So you're going to mix up in your shaker tin 2 ounces of brandy or cognac. I'm using an apple brandy today for mine from Copper and King. 1 ounce of orange liqueur, so Grand Marnier, Cointreau, Triple Sec, anything like that. And then 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice into a shaker tin, shake it, strain it into your glass, and you are good to go. It is really simple. They're classic ingredients. It is a classic cocktail for a reason. It's delicious. I love it. Everyone on board the Ebon Hawk is going to love it, except for Karth because he's piloting. He can't drink. Mission underage, can't drink. T3. I don't know if he can drink or not. So you might need a mocktail for everyone else. So we are also doing a mocktail today in the cocktail lounge. So we have the sidecar. That's the one. That's the foolproof. Alcohol laced drink here for everyone. The mocktail is called the Swoop bike because that's what you're going to be riding around on if you have one of these. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 1.5 ounces of Tart cherry juice, 1.5 ounces of unfiltered apple juice, and 1.5 ounces of orange juice. You can shake that and strain it if you want to put it into like a cocktail glass, make it look nice. You can put it over just a glass with some ice and drink it. And actually, I think that the taste notes are pretty close, actually. So tart cherry juice is something I like to use in mocktails a lot because it has kind of this tart astringency that you get from alcohol. So if you're trying to cut back, tart cherry juice is a really good way to go. So give that a try. Cassia is drinking a Swoop bike. I'm drinking a sidecar. What about you guys, Jeff and Dan? What are you guys imbibing in today in the cocktail lounge.
Yeah, I went with your. Whoops, I'm about to spill it because I'm holding it at a weird angle. Yeah, I went with your sidecar.
Excellent.
Which
excellent.
did we settle on a name?
Oh, I don't
Star
know.
Warsy name?
Yes. So
I think I voted for what
Bastila's
Bastila's Betrayal.
Oh,
Bastila's Betrayal is the most excellent name for a cocktail. That reminds me of something like a Dark and Stormy, so like blackstrap rum and some ginger ale. That because when she goes to the dark side and you encounter her, you're you're out there fighting in the elements and things. But
Brian,
yeah,
your mixology mythology is strong. I would go to your cantina any day.
I was
Yeah,
just
for
going to
sure.
ask: Are you
Holy cow.
a bartender or mixologist professionally, or is this a hobby?
No, it is a hobby. So on a quick aside, I do another podcast called Drink the Movies. So we do a movie and a cocktail each week on that. So so just
Fantastic.
a year and a half's worth of doing a new cocktail every week. I try to absorb all that stuff. I did when I was
Dan.
living in upstate New York. I worked at a wine and liquor store because they're gigantic. If you've ever been to a wine and liquor store in New York, they're like insanely huge. It's like the size of like a Lowe's that I worked in. So
Because that's the
completely
only place
nuts,
you can
but-
buy it, right? New York is
because you can't get it at the grocery
store.
store. Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
I didn't realize that.
In the Midwest, they have even more stringent liquor laws, and so where you go buy liquor, these barn-sized places that one side of the store is liquor and beer, and the other side is fireworks, the likes of which we do not have on the West Coast. And I just think that's so. Let's get hammered and light some fireworks.
That's right. That's right.
Dan, we got to up our drink game. Brian has just raised the bar
I know.
insanely. All right, I'm gonna take a sip. I also did the Bastila's Betrayal.
Oh, nice.
I used Christian Brothers, Corellian Brandy, and Cointreau with a twist of fresh lemon juice from my late father-in-law's giant lemon tree in his backyard.
Nice.
With
Very
a
lovely.
twist. And as Dan knows, I like my drinks ice cold, so I have put a cube, one large cube of ice, and I'm gonna taste this.
And I see
right now.
I see a peel sliver.
It's a twist. Yeah, it's a little. Yeah.
Yeah.
a little-
I'm drinking the Swoop bike, having some mocktail action, and I have a spherical ice cube. Brian kind of got me into the spherical ice cube club, or I guess I could say club, like mixing club and cube. I don't know.
You got a little Death Star in
Nice.
there.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right. So
All
we
right.
have a mocktail and we have a cocktail for everyone. So enjoy that aboard the Ebon Hawk while you are on your adventure saving the galaxy.
Cheers
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
to the old republic.
Long may it be old in the Republic. So
Oh man, that is delicious.
Oh,
That is
thank you.
sweet and, like you said, tangy. And I don't taste any of the medicinal notes that I normally associate with brandy. I don't drink this too fast.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. This is a weighty one, for early in the afternoon. So tread lightly because we have star maps to find. So
It does have that orangey flavor, so it is like a breakfast cocktail, though.
yeah,
It is dangerous in that way.
yeah, you'll see a lot of brandy
boy.
cocktails at brunches and things. I think just because it pairs really well with like orange juice and orange flavors and things.
Yeah, it's good. I made mine with Merlot cognac and triple sec.
Excellent.
Well,
And-
having had our beverage, shall we dive into Act 3?
What's this voice you're doing, Jeffrey?
I
This
don't
is
know,
your
it's my,
host
like,
voice.
This is my podcast transition voice. In a world.
Act 3. So is that me?
It's
That's
you.
me? Okay.
I gave you the hard parts.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump into Act 3 then, starting with the road back, where the hero is pursued by vengeful forces disturbed when they seized the object of their quest. So, of course, the first thing you do, regardless of which planet you go to last, is once you leave that planet, you are attacked by Sith fighters, as you are multiple times throughout your journey. And so in the game, you get this little arcadey turret mini game
Boy, do I suck at that, let me tell you.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
And I didn't realize you could save at the beginning of it, so every time I screwed up the first, 2 times, I have to watch all the cutscenes again before I finally figured out, I could save before the... Yeah,
quick save. Mm-hmm. And so now you are in possession of the completed star map. You have the location of the Star Forge, and you head to those coordinates, but above an unknown world, the Ebon Hawk suffers a catastrophic failure, and you crash land on this vacation planet, which looked quite lovely except for the hostile natives. And you discover during your exploration that the Sith are already there. They have already taken control of this ancient temple, within which is the mechanism that would shut down the disruptor field that has brought down the Ebon Hawk and countless other spacefaring vessels over how many years, we don't know. So this is another one of those, here you are, you're on a planet, here's a series of objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another native culture that the Sith have, wrecked or stolen or oppressed.
Yeah.
Yes, you're here on this planet, which is basically been founded by dark side energy is how their technology came into being, which is kind of fascinating because you see kind of like the growth and the retreat of it. It reminds me a lot of like ancient Roman civilization, how you'll see Roman artifacts all the way up in England, so you can see like their spread and then their recollapse. So I think that's really interesting. But yeah, I mean, you're on this road back. You have had your little space battle. You crash here, and then you're confronted with Darkside Bastila on the Leviathan. You get separated, and she turns allegiances, and she comes to confront you with your newfound knowledge that you are capable of being Darth Revan. Maybe you should go do that and join her. You can overthrow Malik. Let's go down this dark side path. But yeah, the road back, it's a really interesting part of the game, and kind of that confrontation with this character that you've just spent the better part of, 30 hours with, getting to form this relationship, and then it's all just turned on its head right here, kind of going into Act 3.
I suspected it was going to happen, but it still broke my heart. What a testament to the writers of this game. I was really emotionally invested in that relationship and those characters. And when she shows up with, you can tell she's joined the dark side because her eyeliner has become darker. And the Sith,
that's right,
are the manufacturers of it's made from the bodies of the burned victims, and they make she's also the most intimidating Jedi because she has the quasi British accent that just makes the dark side more intimidating.
Yeah, definitely, it could be like a woman as temptress, kind of.
Yeah, that's a great point because she's come to the dark side.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think she's kind of like someone who's trying to pass herself off as like an Obi-Wan, even though Obi-Wan doesn't exist for about 4,000 years, but is probably more of like a unstable kind of Anakin, and like just kind of like someone who just kind of rehashes dogma, and like the Dantooine Jedi Council are not good parental figures that guide you towards like having a balanced sense of like mental health and self, I would say. So
I think you've identified my favorite archetype in Star Wars, and really in any even in Harry Potter and Dumbledore, the flawed mentor. I love the flawed mentor. And just on a personal note, as a parent, it's very comforting to see these flawed mentors develop good, healthy heroes despite their flaws. And I never thought of Bastila as a flawed mentor, but you're absolutely right. That's what she is. And Revan, ironically, outgrows her and defeats her. So that's a really great insight. You guys have really good insights. I'm learning a lot about my own line of work from your analyses.
Oh, thank you. We're definitely learning from you guys too. So yeah.
How many times have you guys played the game through Are you multiple playthrough folks, or have you played it once and you've just analyzed it?
I'd say like three or four.
Much. Three or four.
I've probably played through it probably about 4 times.
And
Back
not
with that
once
Xbox controller, which like twice, which you should get a medal for if you play through anything with that original Xbox controller. But, and then a couple of times on Steam. So yeah, probably like 4 times maybe.
Wow,
The Atari joystick
impressive
version.
Yeah, that's right.
I learned so much about video game mechanics from watching Dan play video games. The way he, the way he looks at the various weapons that are available and who can best use them and the skills. And I'm so glad you guys invited us to do this, because my video game experience has been so heightened because of this call to adventure that you've given us.
Oh, well done.
Oh, very nice.
I've enjoyed this game that's almost 20 years old. Was an instruction on how to play future video games. And as watching Dan play this game, Mutant Year Zero, on the No Games for Old Men YouTube channel, shameless plug, that so many of the game mechanics were existing in this game was so foundational.
Yes.
And my 2 biggest moments in playing this game were, one was the confrontation with Darth Bandon. Was such a challenge to my meager video game skills. It forced me to stop. I mean, this was, 30 hours into the video game. It forced me to stop and go back and look at all the stats of all the grenades and all the stats of my characters and read about the buff spells and figure out the exact order I was going to go in, because button mashing wasn't going to get me through this battle. So my video game skills have improved so much because of Dan's series and because of this invitation, that I thank you, because I know I'm going to enjoy video games so much more because of playing this for a second time. So I was thrilled when Dan said, hey, they want to invite us to do Hero's Journey analysis. And even though it was 45 hours I didn't spend with my family, can't say I regret it.
Ooh, wow, ouch.
Don't regret it. Sorry.
Yeah.
This was a great opportunity for me because, like Jeff said earlier, I played the game originally on PC way back when it came out. But when I was on, Korriban was the last planet I visited, and my save file got corrupted.
Oh.
Right at the end. And I was crushed because 40 hours in, I can't start over now. I just couldn't make I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Mental health.
Yeah.
And so this was my opportunity to play it again. So yeah, thank you for the invite here.
It's amazing that, a game that came out in 2003 can still, move us through the story it was telling and kind of the gameplay mechanics, and, it still, can contribute a lot.
And 120 plus episodes of a hour plus long podcast. I mean,
yeah.
You guys have delved so deep into the Star Wars mythology and wrung so much meaning and pleasure for your audience out of that story. But we're acting like this is the end. We still have to discuss.
Sorry.
Dan, tell us more. Is there more road back here?
No, Brian. Brian
Yeah.
picked out the pinnacle of it, which is confronting Bastila and discovering her conversion to the dark side. No.
And another great lightsaber duel.
Wait, what?
And another great lightsaber duel. It never occurred to me that there would be a cutscene in the middle of a lightsaber duel until I played Jedi Fallen Order, and so my panic level was so high. And then I'm, oh god, I don't have to finish the whole battle. And that brings us to Resurrection, where the hero faces death one more time in a battle, showdown, or second ordeal, and this time the danger is on the broadest scale of the entire story. So, of course, the resurrection in this game, as in most Star Wars stories, is trying to blow up the big bad battle station while the Jedi infiltrate. So, in this case, it's the final battle on the Star Forge. So, Revan and company join the Republic assault on the Star Forge, but Bastila's now dark side battle meditation is holding the Republic forces at bay. So they have to get somebody in there to stop her. So the Ebon Hawk crew, lead a strike team of Jedi, and they land on the Forge, and they're met with a horde of dark Jedi in this landing bay.
Yeah.
And so some of the Jedi stay to defend the docking bay while Revan and companions head into the forge to find Bastila. Just as a side note here, I was like, oh, they're going to be on the Death Star, so I need a droid. I need a droid to help me because we're going to have to go through doors. So I brought T3M4. And having never really brought a droid into my guys, so I brought T3M4 and Juhani. And I was like, oh my God, it's all battle. Why did I bring T3M4? but having done the homework from Dan, I discovered the I forget what it's called, the carbonite ray. And thing, 100% chance of paralysis once it hits. I was freezing Dark Jedi left and right. I'm like, go T3. It's like my new favorite character. So if I play this game again, I'm a T3 fan. So anyway.
The flamethrower attachment is very, very useful as well for your next T3 playthrough.
Great advice.
Great droid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love T3.
Second only to R2, of course.
Well, maybe I like BB-8 too.
BB-8's good.
BB-8's good. BB-8's good.
So finally you reach Bastila, and she very conveniently incapacitates our heroes. And we engage in yet another lightsaber duel with her, and our hero wins. And Dan and I were discussing, in my version, I tried to persuade Bastila to recant, but she fell to the dark side, and I had to slay her. Now, I didn't get any dark side points for that, but I failed at all my persuasion rolls in this game, almost every single one. So, but Dan had a different experience. You had a different outcome, yeah?
Yeah, I was actually able to turn her back to the good side. And it was a really out of nowhere dialogue choice where Bastila says, "Tell me one thing, do you love me?"
Oh.
And I was like, "What?"
Oh.
So I was like, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, well, then I'm good again." And it wasn't quite that basic, but
I wonder.
It was so out of nowhere. I know back on Dantooine there was a dialogue option where Bastila says something about "we have a connection," and one of the dialogue options is something like, "Well, we've got more than a connection," or "you want to explore that connection." I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, "That'd be funny. I want to see what
like
what
a
this
2003 dude bro writing." So.
For real. And she shuts you down hardcore. I was like, okay, so there's not like romance in this game. So I didn't explore that anymore until this very end. And she's like, "Do you love me?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure. Let's see what this does." And that is what convinced her to come back to the good side.
I wonder if that was an unavailable choice to me because I played a female hero.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were scared of in 2003, they were maybe scared of, because that would have been a great, what a great thing to include in Star Wars is this long arc of a female romance.
Yeah.
With Juhani, I believe she was the first LGBTQ Star Wars character. Like, if you were a female Revan, you could romance her, and I think that's like the first one, and one of the first, in most games, like AAA
in video games, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I hope in a remake that there's more options, because I kind of think it really doesn't make sense that Bastila can like a female Revan can romance a Bastila, because I feel like they have a bond and a connection anyway, so it's really not that much of a leap to think it could be a romance too. So
yeah,
come on, LucasArts, let's do this.
BioWare has developed. I mean, they are the developer behind Dragon Age, Mass Effect, both of which you have same-sex relationships that are possible. Mm-hmm. So they did take that step, maybe just not.
Yeah, 2003.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it in this particular game, but you see the foundations of these amazing games that come after. So again, you just see how revolutionary KOTOR really is on the industry as a whole, not to mention just what BioWare has produced since.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, romance with Bastila notwithstanding.
You killed her.
Whatever outcome, I slayed her. However it turns out, we've now freed the Republic of Bastila's meditation. We've brought the shields down on this fully operational battle station. And so now So now the Republic can continue their assault. Meanwhile, Revan goes deeper into the Starforge to face down his old apprentice, Malik. And before you get to Malik, there's this droid puzzle fight. And I was so proud of myself for not panicking and figuring it out. I only played it once, and I figured it out. BioWare.
You got through it first time?
Yeah, bring me a game 20 years later, I will figure it out in the first try.
Achievement
Boom.
Unlocked. Good job.
So, and then there's, of course, the final battle with Malik, which I did not complete in one try.
Oh, me either.
Where
It's hard.
He's running around sucking the life out of these Jedis in tanks.
Yeah. It's very dark.
So you have to...
Yeah.
Yeah. It is very dark. But in terms of resurrection, you're allowing all of these Jedi to return to the Force. Malik has prevented them from, dying fully and returning to the Force. And so you liberate all these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you defeat Malik, and there's this great cutscene where Malik is dying and expresses maybe a little bit of regret, and then you defeat him, and that is the end. Oh no,
Campbell.
Also, yeah, I was just say that the Republic fleet comes in and they blow up the Starforge. So that is the ultimate fight. Is that they've destroyed this thing that's been generating ships that have been completely overwhelming the old Republic. Mm-hmm. So now the Sith's great advantage and their leader are dead, and it's over.
Right. There's the great, similar to the end of Return of the Jedi, where the Falcon is racing through the underbelly of the exploding second Death Star. And there's this question about whether or not they're going to make it out, or because we know this is the last movie in the trilogy, are they gonna destroy the Millennium Falcon here? There's a similar thing with the Hawk, where we don't know whether or not the Ebon Hawk escaped the explosion.
But it did.
Of course it
Super
did.
glad. Super glad I didn't have to pilot the Ebon Hawk, because that would have been another 6 hours of trying to complete the game.
That's right. Yeah, here's a few more Sith fighters, and then you can go and get
I've
your
never been
medals
so
again.
grateful. Yeah, I've never been so grateful for a cutscene in my entire life.
I would be interested to know how this plays out if you are Darkside. I assume. I mean, you probably have the opportunity to have Bastila join you in the fight against Malik, unless she remains loyal to him, and you have to defeat her and then Malik. Do any of you know?
Basically, when you're on Lihan, Bastila gives you the choice, and you can choose light side, dark side. If you choose dark side, you murder Jolie and Juhani.
What?
And
Oh no!
then you go back to the Ebon Hawk crew, and you tell people who you are. Like, they know you're Revan, but you're like, no, I'm really gonna just become the Dark Lord of the Sith again. And then, like, Mission
I'm the bad
Bay-
Revan now.
Yeah, I'm a bad one now. And then Mission says no. She kind of represents the childhood innocence, I think. And she says, no, don't do this. And, like, you can persuade Zalbar to kill Mission for you. So, like, that's why I can never go dark side, because it's just too sad.
Ooh,
Yeah.
life debt to the Dark Lord.
How powerful are you that you convince a Wookiee that has sworn a life debt to someone else to break that life debt?
Yeah,
And
like,
kill them.
it's just brutal. And
I couldn't do that.
killing
I don't
Mission.
even-
Ugh,
I don't even like hearing about it. So
No.
I definitely couldn't play it and make those decisions. That's
Brian,
No.
delete this part of the podcast. I don't want to even hear it.
Yeah, but it is interesting because you kind of follow the basic framework of the story, whether you're light side or dark side, and then you kind of just go to the Starforge, and you basically have to defeat Darth Malak's Sith forces. You end Darth Malak, and the Republic is kind of just like they do fight, but Bastila makes sure that the Sith win, and then you kind of end up on Korriban and reclaim your title as Dark Lord, and they just say "Hail Darth Revan," So
Wow.
So Bastila survives, and you take her as an apprentice instead of killing her.
Yes.
Is that
Wow. Campbell calls this segment of the journey the Master of Two Worlds, and this seems to be an appropriate title in this particular story. Because if you are light side, you are revealed to be Revan, having been mind wiped, and you choose redemption.
Yeah, the prodigal knight.
You are
Right.
You are the master of the two worlds. You were the biggest bad, and now you're the greatest good.
Yeah.
Well done.
So it's just a very fascinating character. That's why I really just want the psychologist to like diagnose Revan or like analyze Revan and like what is it like having your mind wiped, does that make you a good person? Like how much is choice, like nature versus nurture? Like it would just be fascinating. But,
Yeah.
It would be interesting.
That is interesting.
It would be interesting when the remake comes. I don't know if either of you or Cassie or anyone listening out there have played the Telltale Games Walking Dead series, and when you finished those episodes, it would show you live updated like what decisions people made, like of who to save and things.
Oh, other players.
Other players, yeah.
Oh,
so
neat.
it's really interesting as just kind of like a society like thought experiment, like like what decisions people would make like as a whole, and if you fell in line with the decisions other people made. So that was kind of interesting. So that would be something really wild to see in the remake if something like that was implemented.
That would drive me nuts. I second guess myself enough. I mean, like, this guy, should I? Oh man, did I do the right thing? Oh, Dan and I were talking about the ability to save a game before a big battle. So like when I confronted Juhani, I had saved just beforehand, and the first time I played it, I was unable to persuade her to come back to the light side, and I had to kill her, and I got dark side points. It's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. So I replayed it, and we both compared it to, like, I don't know if you guys remember Choose Your Own Adventure books from childhood. It's like putting your finger on page 13 and then turning to page 54 and not liking the outcome, so you hop back to page 14.
Yeah.
I will admit to doing that more than once during this game because I wanted to pursue the light side path. It was very important to me, and I don't know if that counts as cheating, but it was definitely I was definitely actively pursuing this course on purpose. I wanted to play it out that way.
I believe the gaming community refers to that as save scumming, and it did exist before video games. It was called Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah.
Boom. I'm a save scummer then, admittedly.
That's right.
Talk to your children about the dangers of save scumming.
I learned it from watching you.
The interesting thing about mythology, like if you look at like Greek myths or like Egyptian mythology, Norse myths, and then like stories like video game stories like Knights of the Old Republic, is like there can be multiple interpretations of like the same story. Like in Knights of the Old Republic, you can make various choices, do various side quests, be male or female, light side or dark side, and like it's just fascinating with like just kind of seeing like the different Greek creation myths and like how did hope in Pandora's box, was it a jar? You know, like for some people that's like all these contradictory stories can be kind of and like kind of like I don't understand what the story is supposed to be, but like that's kind of like what mythology is. And like I kind of like how like KOTOR, there's like multiple ways to interpret this story, you know, like kind of like multiple interpretations versus just one interpretation. And like there's just like that's kind of like the cool thing about the Monomyth is like there doesn't just have to be one correct answer. Like how did you guys feel about that?
Yeah, the fact that you can be a male or a female, you can play light side or dark side, is I felt a good representation of Campbell's hero's journey story, in that yes, we've talked about how he was looking at it from early 20th century psychology, but anybody, regardless of age or gender identity or anything, goes on a hero's journey. And of course, Vogler and Maureen Murdoch and Maria Tatar, they have evolved the format of that storytelling. But I think KOTOR is a great representation of anybody can be the hero of their story.
Dan and I frequently disagree about stages of the journey and try to persuade the other. And sometimes one does persuade the other and bring them over to their opinion, but sometimes they don't. And recently in a Thelma and Louise episode, which is a movie that Vogler comments on, I disagreed with Christopher Vogler, which is why I'm terrified to have him on as a guest, because I literally call him out in the episode. So if anyone in his circle has heard that episode, I'm afraid he's going to throw down with me. But yeah, I think...
Yeah, that seems his style.
Yeah, right. As in this conversation where we've found a different range of each stage, there are elements of the journey that occur out of order in many stories. Or sometimes there's a reluctant hero who resists the call over and over and over again. So I think what Campbell identified and what Vogler adapted for a modern audience is these ingredients that go into every story. I mean, Campbell he looked at these myths that arose in different civilizations prehistory. Well, not prehistory, but before these civilizations ever interacted or had any ability to interact. There are these elements that arose. And so, Cassia, earlier you said it's in our DNA. I think it literally is. These functions are somehow evolved with us in the way that we interpret the world. And, Campbell made this a way to look at your life, to look at your life story. And I love that Vogler's book is called The Writer's Journey, because as a writer, it has deeply influenced the way not only I look at stories, but the way I create stories. And I often don't really take into account the journey until my second draft. So it's always interesting to look at a second draft of something you've written and watch these stages emerge and go, wow, it's so enfolded into the way I see the world that even if I'm actively trying to ignore, these things still appear. It's just a profound revelation that Campbell identified that I think has really made storytelling and human existence better on a universal level. I mean, just what a work of genius.
Absolutely. I don't know. I just love the Monomyth, and I'm just glad that little baby Cassia, even though she was probably too young, kind of just was like, I'm going to read this book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. So,
yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of the endearing part about Knights of the Old Republic is because, it's kind of this classic hero's journey kind of a tale, but because you are the protagonist, and that's even something that's different from other RPGs. So if you play like Final Fantasy, you're the character, but you're really still playing someone else's story. This really kind of dials it in, and BioWare's kind of roots with the D&D games, it led to that, and I think it created just something that was advanced technologically. The story and the setting was compelling. Star Wars still being one of the largest franchises in the planet, especially then in 2003 with the prequels in full swing. But it just let you have and explore your own story. Like, you didn't feel like you were playing someone else's story. You felt like you were playing your own story in this world. And I thought, I still think 20 years on that's a pretty amazing feat that they were able to pull off with the small team of people putting this video game together.
Well said.
In a remake, do you think it should keep the D&D elements, or would you kind of want to see the evolution of the combat?
I would like to see maybe a KOTOR 3 with a revised style, although I love BioWare's style. This and Dragon Age and Mass Effect. If they could do something Mass Effect like with this, I mean, again, you see the origins of Mass Effect in this game. I would love to see a new KOTOR. I think the gameplay fundamentals of the way the game exists currently, it might be too difficult to redesign. You'd be remaking a whole new game almost.
Yeah.
If you were to rebuild everything from the ground up. I think what they're working on now is more of a remaster than a remake.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, visual improvements and things.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can't get a button mash version, I would say
Jedi Fallen Order is. Play that.
Yeah. Update maybe to D&D 5.0 so that we don't have to deal with the extremely complicated skills and feats that I don't know add a lot to the game.
Yeah.
I found myself looking at, every time I leveled up, looking at the recommended feats or the recommended skill upgrades, and it was like wisdom and treat injury over and over and over and over again. So I would like to see them update, but I don't mind using the D&D combat system. I think it's great. And I think in watching Dan play XCOM and Mutant Year Zero and seeing the more slowed down turn-based combat, I think keeping the KOTOR system of, turn-based but simultaneous, and you've got to actively pause it if you want to change a character's decisions, that was more exciting to me. So I think as similar as possible, really, to capture the spirit of the original.
Yeah.
So the same but better is what you want.
Exactly right. Same but more better.
Yeah, just do it that way, the same but better, and everyone will be happy with it. No one will have any complaints. That's right. Yeah.
But no matter what they do, there will be a massive backlash by Star Wars fans because Star Wars fans love everything about Star Wars except the movies and the video games.
That's right. No one hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans. That's right.
It's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, we try to be be positive, but I'm always trying to learn to be better as well. But Star Wars fans, it's an interesting landmine sometimes, but I do like what you guys said is the arc of a video game is long. And video games are kind of, in comparison to TV and movies, like they kind of keep doing, the market kind of keeps growing, and like TV and movies are kind of different. Like, do you think there could be a Monomyth book for video games one day, or kind of incorporating more of those types of stories one day?
That would be if Vogler's not already working on that. Did you bring that up to him when you talked to him?
No,
it got cut from the episode. I didn't hear it on the episode, but
we did not.
Sidecar.
No,
I was kind of in awe and didn't want to bother him too much. So
Cassia was furiously scribbling notes because it was just like getting a lecture from him for her. But no, we talked about kind of the current state and future of media, but it was still all geared at television and movies. It wasn't really taken to like a video game sort of destination. And kind of the way that I see it, I don't know. I guess you could maybe make some arguments for it, but to me a video game is you get like the benefits and the story pacing of a movie, but you get the length of a book, so you can kind of address it in two ways, and maybe there is room to have kind of a blueprint for people to follow. But as games have gotten more and more cinematic, I would think that the storytelling leans more into how movies are made, but yeah, you have this tremendous length, and I think that needs to be addressed, especially in like AAA games, that are, going 40, 50, 80, 100 hours.
Oh boy.
Plus. So
yeah, your interview with Vogler, I enjoyed, particularly when he said he was working on a new, I think he said he was working on a new edition, or at least some kind of
I think he's working on an essay
work where he was realizing that with the advent of streaming services and limited run series that are 8 to 10 episodes, they're telling these long form stories.
Yeah.
And there's a new opportunity to apply the journey to those stories. And I know Jeff and I have talked about frequently, should we do a season of a show or a limited, like The Dropout or something, which if you haven't seen, I really enjoyed that. That would be, I guess that would be my side quest for the week.
Theranos? Yeah.
Yeah. So that would, you could certainly do a hero's journey of that show. It's 8 hours long, so it's a long, it would be a long path to walk, but there's a place for it. Absolutely.
4 dropouts equal, a Knights of the Old Republic or something, so.
Well, it depends on how poorly you play it, is in my case.
Oh, yeah.
How much walking around Terrace you do.
Yeah. You could watch The Dropout 4 or 5 times or play KOTOR, but yeah, it's interesting to see kind of like what streaming is kind of doing to the story landscape, and like especially like kind of like what Corona like people are responding to. Like it kind of seems like kind of big budget films, like, which I mean I love, like are kind of dominating the market, but I would kind of like to see more films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's like you have a multiverse kind of story, like about a woman trying to do taxes, like kind of like where it's a little bit more, I don't know, kind of like personal stories being told, like ordinary heroes kind of like responding to life and
smaller stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of contemporary fiction is where that's my, professional experience as a writer, and the hero's journey is still so pervasive in that paradigm, and it's kind of hard to avoid, even in independent art house films. It emerges even in the smallest way. You can see it. It's hard to avoid. And in some story, I mean, we did Moonlight one time, and that was like, oh boy, how do we get the hero's journey in there? And we did. We found we found the elements, and there's an argument to be made where if you look for something hard enough, you'll find it. But on the flip side, there's an argument that all human stories are universal. And then in some way, that's the function of a story, is to connect people with different outlooks, to say, here is something universal that we can all experience, and you can experience it by hearing this story. You can identify with this story, and the reason you can identify with story is because we're all the same. And I think that's what Campbell is identifying, that the way these myths in different cultures have all these story functions that are identical is because there's something in our, as you said, Cassia, our DNA that makes us all the same. And we're 50% similar to the DNA of a banana. Yep. So when you put a species together, we have so much in common that it's undeniable when you listen to the stories that we tell, from the beginning of history until, 2022.
Yeah. I want to hear the banana monomyth one day.
You just kind of
it's very
broke
appealing.
my brain right now. Am I a cannibal if I eat bananas?
Yeah, I only fit half a cannibal, really.
Well, and I want to say we're 95 or 99% the same as chimpanzees. So imagine an intelligence out there that's just 5% more intelligent than we are, and how that would blow our understanding out of the water. Would the hero's journey still apply to them? Is it truly universal? Is it trans-species universal? That's really a cool question for the 21st, 22nd, 23rd century.
I wonder if they cover that in Star Trek. That would be fascinating. I want to discover that, but yeah, like
come on, Elon Musk, make it happen.
Elon Musk. But
by the way, Elon Musk is the closest thing we'll ever have to a Bond villain. So, I feel like it's our job to give him that one thing that pushes him over the edge and has him build like a volcano lair. I just think humanity needs that as a uniting factor.
Dr. No.
Just to get that on your podcast if you don't cut it out.
Yeah, seriously.
Dr. Evil.
Yeah, but that's a really fascinating transition to... like in our podcast, we try to kind of make the podcast a love letter to characters, character stories, and kind of like a love letter to the Monomyth. And I think, like, even you said, like, you can apply parts of the hero's journey, you can find it, whether it's Moonlight, and we kind of like found the hero's journey even in like a 40-hour video game that came out 20 years ago, so you can really kind of find it anywhere. And it was really cool to have you guys on. It kind of like, I was able to kind of like pretend like I was on the Hero's Journey podcast, and just like it's stuff we love talking about, and it's just really fun to talk stories, and we love them. Where can our listeners find where you guys are at and what you guys are doing?
Well, we have a website called heroesjourneypodcast.com, and we're on Patreon at patreon.com/heroesjourneypodcast. But more importantly, any of the podcast apps, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you can find us by searching for The Hero's Journey, and you'll find our little cartoon logo where I'm dressed as a Jedi, Dan's dressed as a knight, and we're sitting in the movie theater watching a movie.
And I'm reading
Dan's
book
reading an
upside
upside-down book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm eating popcorn. And we'd love to have you join us. It's all about stories. And but wow, what a pleasure it's been to discuss a video game for the first time, and to be involved with such experts on Star Wars and on this game.
Real.
It's been a real pleasure. So thank you for the invitation, and thanks for having us.
Of course. Yeah, be sure to check out everything, the Hero's Journey podcast, and to everyone listening out there, have a wonderful May the 4th, and may the Force be with you.